What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Champion Living Podcast, the only podcast crossing the lines between the sport of rodeo and fitness. Today's episode, we have a very special guest on, Bolton, professional bull rider, reality TV star, and semi-professional male dancer we hear. Guys, before we get going, we got to thank our sponsors, Beastmaster Rodeo, been with us since day one, the elite rodeo gear company in America and North America. Hell, we'll say the world. Check them out, beastmasterrodeo.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving, all one word, uppercase, going to save you 10% on all their products. Woo! Let's get into it. How are you? How's Texas? Nice and warm for you?
Oh, man. Good this morning. Yeah, it's been getting up to about 90 by the time it's 7:30 in the morning. It's and then by lunchtime it's around 105 or 6 every day.
Oh, yeah. That's
So we're cooking. We're
yeah, you're
cooking.
cooking. You just get done doing your I seen you've been walking and rucking in the morning and stuff. You just get done doing
Yeah,
your little
man.
workout?
I'm trying to get it in the mornings. Usually it's here lately it's been in the evenings because we're actually building out a podcast studio here at the ranch right now.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's awesome.
so we've been trying to get in before that hot afternoon sun. But yeah, man, I've been on a 90-day challenge. I've been trying to walk and I'll do a little cardio, a little calisthenics in between, a little interval, kind of hit workouts.
Yeah.
But going 2 to 4 miles every day. And man, it started slow, not doing anything real crazy, but kind of pushing it along the way as I go and get a little stronger. I think I had kind of just gotten burn out and really had kind of even maybe damaged my neck a little bit from all that I pushed myself through when I broke my neck and went and did the dance show and then tried to
Yeah.
be a male model there for a little while. Uh, and my body was still in really good shape. I had finally hit my peak performance probably from a physical standpoint, riding bulls through all the training I had gone through and learned at that point. So my body really held in shape for the next year or two, kind of on its own,
Mm-hmm.
I was really thankful, but it was kind of the same then, like, uh, when I was bogged down in bed, and stiff and just trying to get my function back. I started at the smallest place, the very smallest steps I could, trying to regenerate that mobility
Mm-hmm.
and just like inch by inch, every day it was kind of trying to gain that next inch.
Yeah, dude, that's really cool. And that kind of, I think we should just get into everything you've done, man. You kind of mentioned some of those things. And for those of y'all that don't know who Bonner Bolton is, PBR bull rider, cowboy, reality TV star, and apparently a male model for a short period of time. So,
Male dancer.
uh, so why don't you just kind of fill us in, man? What did that all look like getting into bull riding as a kid? Did you grow up in a rodeo family? How did you transition into the PBR, and what did your bull riding career kind of look like?
Yeah, man. So I grew up in West Texas, out on a big ranch in Odessa. For those of you who may know, um, home of Friday Night Lights football,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, our family has had a place out there since 1903. Um, just cattle ranching, raising horses, and uh, the real deal, just West Texas ranching. And
Yeah.
my when my mom, that's on my mom's side of the family. So when my dad came into the picture, my dad grew up in New Mexico. Um, was a bull rider his whole, from the time he turned 12 till he was 33. He rode bulls and pretty dang good one in his own right. He was a pro bull rider in the 80s and 90s and rode with Cody Lambert, Jim Sharp, Tuff Hedeman, all those guys. And him and Cody kind of grew up together out west. And so they were pretty good friends and still are today. But he quit early on, in 1991. he had me and my brother pretty early, and he had just won the George Paul Memorial, and I think it actually may have been '92 when he actually retired, and he got wrecked out at Denver really bad at one of the very first BRO deals, and I think it put him in a coma. In fact, it's on Cabin Fever. If you guys ever remember those best rides, worst wrecks
Oh
videos
yeah.
from Cabin Fever,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you remember a guy getting hooked by a Mexican fighting bull really really bad, that's my dad at the Denver BRO. And yeah, it put him out bad, and I think he decided after that, he just kind of wanted to pursue being a dad and a ranch cowboy. That was always really his dream, and he found that when he found my mom. And I couldn't be more thankful. He's been better than any world champion I've ever met, as far as being a dad goes, and set a real good example for me and my siblings growing up on really what it means to be a true cowboy.
Dude, that's awesome. So your dad got you started in bull riding, or just watching, growing up in it? That's what got you started and wanting to ride bulls, I'm guessing.
Yes, sir. Looking at all of his old pictures, watching his old videos, I was riding the fabric out off the arm of the couch, or you know, I'd pull Dad's old suitcase out and strap a rope around it and buck around in the living room, and
Yeah.
watch those old videos, and then working cattle on the ranch. Yeah, every Brandon. By the time I was
Oh
about
yeah.
7 or 8, I was trying to get Dad
Ride
to
the
let me crawl
calves.
on some calves in the
Yeah.
Brandon. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
and they'd brand the calves, and some of the bigger ones they'd let me and my brother crawl on and try to ride them up, and I think that's where it started. And then I think by the time I was 7 or 8, he let me actually try getting on some steers. We went over to my uncle's roping pen, and they were just starting to do some tripping. Both my uncles did a little steer tripping,
Mm-hmm.
and so they had some pretty big steers. And I remember they kind of Jimmy rigged a panel up against the side of the fence, and just off to the side, right out beside the roping box, real safe.
Mm-hmm.
And and
Oh yeah.
and so they got the two kind of meanest, wildest steers they had, and put them up in there. And I just remember we had a little blue bull rope and some of my dad's old spurs and a work glove. This was before vests or helmets or anything, and those were the first two actual steers that I got on. And then we went to a couple rodeos, and I think my dad kind of decided I was too small at that point and held me back a little bit. But yeah, it was still pretty old school at that point.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You
We
know,
yeah, dude. I did the same thing with when I was gonna learn how to ride bucking horses. We had my buddy had some rope and steers, and he had a little like a donkey, like a burro. And so I put this rigging on that was like, dude, man, from like the '70s. It sat pretty much forward, and we put it in on this donkey, and we'd back him in this just like you. We Jimmy rigged up a panel up to the fence, and my buddy would open it, yeah, super safe, and he's running forward out of that gate. It was just a mess, but yeah, I'd been there. That's
yeah,
hilarious.
man.
So, what about sports? Did you play any sports in high school, or you just kind of stayed on the rodeo path?
So growing up, I did. I played soccer a bunch growing up. That was kind of like my favorite ball sport. I played baseball a little bit. But really, by the time I turned 10, I was pretty serious about the riding thing. And
Mm-hmm.
Clayton Foltine, my dad's good friends with Lane Foltine. Many people kind of know him now as one of the PBR back judges, but
Mm-hmm.
Justin and Clayton Foltine's dad, great bull riders and NFR bareback riders, and my
Oh
dad and
yeah.
Lane rodeoed together back in their rodeo days, and I think they brought Justin and Clayton to a junior finals in Odessa one year when I was about 10, and that's what kind of really resparked my interest in wanting to ride. And I was playing ball sports at that point in time, and then those guys came, and I think Clayton won his division in the steer riding or Pee Wee bull riding or whatever it was, and I just remember that's kind of what inspired me, of all people, Clayton Fultine. And but, but it's kind of an inside laugh there for those of us that know him. You know, he's a
Oh yeah.
character, but one of my dear friends. You know, we've been lifelong friends ever since then. And man, what a rank cowboy too. Not a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
guys
dude.
really
Both of them.
highlight, but I mean, one of the
Yeah.
rankest guys. Yeah, him and Justin both great bareback riders too. At the same time,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
uh, handy
I
on
college
all
rodeoed with
ends, out
both
in
of
the
them.
pasture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm
That's
talking
cool.
about catch some wild cattle out in the South Texas brush too. You know,
That's
good
awesome.
cowboys.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
So
That's
that's
really
kind of
cool.
what
So
sparked my riding.
yeah. And then progressing on, did you, when you went into the PBR, was that an at 18 thing or did you wait a little bit?
So whenever I guess I started kind of going, I didn't really high school rodeo a whole bunch. I really went to a lot of amateur bull ridings by the time I was 13 and 14. That's kind of all I was
Mm-hmm.
doing. And then eventually, as soon as I turned 18, I was hitting everything: PRCA, PBR, CBR at that time with Tuff Hedeman.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of took off pretty well right off the bat for me going to Tuff's bull ridings. And so I kind of did that at the very beginning. And then I did some pro rodeos. I really enjoyed pro rodeo. And in fact, that's kind of where my heart was really set at the beginning. But it was really back in the day where it was still really, really hard to get into everything. I don't know if it's kind of that way now still when you're starting out on your permit, but
They've
I
got
think there was a
different
lot
things
more
set
bull
up
riders
now.
back then in general, though.
Yeah. Yeah. They have different
Really?
qualifications and like literal
Well,
ratios per money added for rodeos now that more permit guys will get in over card holders based off of a little amount of money added versus, those big money added rodeos. Yeah, there's going to be very limited guys getting in on a permit and everyone on their card's going to get in. But they've definitely set things up for guys on their permit to be able to progress a little bit quicker and have a little more access
yes,
to
sir.
getting on and competing than back then for sure.
Back then, I think one of the guys. Well, I know it was probably the guy that was my biggest hero or mentor that I looked up to was Matt Austin. Um, Matt Austin is absolutely, for your listeners or audience, those of y'all that don't know him, is probably one of the greatest, I think, undisputably bull riders there's ever been. Um, Even up there with, Jose Vitor Leme, and in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, like when Matt was in his heyday, I mean, there just wasn't anybody that did it prettier, better, and more consistent. And
Yeah.
him and Dustin Elliott at the time, uh, Logan Knibbie, Clint Craig, all those guys were kind of my heroes that I looked up to. Brian Richardson, um, DJ Domain, he was another huge
Oh
mentor of
yeah.
mine. Those guys I had the privilege to rodeo with and go down the road with. Aaron Pass. Aaron was more my age, but still he was one of those guys. Him and Douglas Duncan,
Mm-hmm.
Stormy Wing. Uh, I was just so blessed to get to go down the road with a lot of really talented guys.
That's really cool, man. Makes a big difference when you're surrounded by winners and you're going down the road and everyone's, expecting to win, right?
Huge,
Yeah. We talk
100%.
about that a lot.
That's such a great thing to point out. Yeah, you are who you hang with. Obviously, if you hang with someone long enough, it'll rub off, good or bad. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something my parents thankfully taught me pretty early on, and I tried to always keep that in mind. And some of those guys that pushed me in a good way also, maybe rubbed off on me in a bad way too, a little
Yeah.
bit at
A little
times.
give and take. A little give and
I
take. Yeah.
I think I think we were all that for each other, a little bit. There's
Well, you got
pretty
to think
mutual
too, man.
exchange.
Like that age, like we're just we're still just kids, like yeah, you're 18 to 21. Like, dude, I didn't even begin to start growing up until I was probably 25, and really figuring life out. I
Yeah.
thought I would by 21, but there's no way in hell I was. So we're all just trying to figure it out. We all have friends like that were like, oh yeah, we got some good that came out of that, and oh yeah, also maybe some not so good, but it all balances
A
out.
lot of discovery. A lot
Yeah,
of discovery going on
yeah.
at that
That's a
age.
great way to say it. Great way to say it, man. So moving on,
Exploration. I was an
yeah,
explorer.
exactly. Same. Moving on down your career, we earlier you kind of talked about breaking your neck, and that's where
Hmm.
I'd say a new chapter opened for you. A lot of things happened after that point in time. So just take me through what led up to that. I don't know exactly how you broke your neck. Was it just getting bucked off and coming off on your neck? Or did something else happen? And then what did your,
Yeah, so
rehabilitation and things like that look like?
that's a good segue. So, I got into the pro ranks at 18. Uh, climbed my way through. I guess it's good to point out I won my first kind of big title championship when I was 20 at Tough Steels, and I ended up winning his season one year. And then right after that, I wanted to go to the PBRs and really kind of transitioned over there where there was a little more money going on for sure, a lot more at that time. And I was doing really well, ended up tearing my bicep the very next year. And that was my first real big injury that I ever had to encounter. And that was at age 20. And that set me out for a whole year. I mean, I tore it completely off the bone on my riding arm from the elbow up is how it
Oh
tore.
yeah.
So they had to reattach it back down
Uh-huh.
and anchor everything back down
Yep.
into there and thread it through my bicep, which I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you guys have dealt with a lot of those injuries.
Yes.
That's a pretty common
Like
one in our
that
sport now,
exact
right?
one. Yeah.
Have you guys, any of y'all, ever
I've never
dealt
torn
with
it
it?
myself, just worked with lots of athletes that have. Last year I had two athletes that had that happen to them. And I'm talking about just a clean tear right off the bone. And they didn't even
Oh,
they just it wasn't even a pain thing. It was just a went from having strength to no strength instantly in the middle of a ride,
no
and they come
strength.
off and they come back and they're like, what is up? Like, and with a clean tear, when it comes all the way off, there really isn't a lot of pain involved in that. Like, it's that's kind of one of the ways
It burned
is
and it
that.
throbbed.
Yep.
Yeah, it felt like you would imagine old rubber tearing. It's like it. I was in the middle of a bull ride, making probably one of the best, rankest rides of my life, probably, and down in Wimberley, Texas, in the short round at a PBR, and right in the middle of the ride, I mean, that son of a bitch just
Yeah,
pow at
popped.
about 6 seconds, and I lost my hand floated up out of my rope. Then he stepped all around me. That hurt the worst. And then I got back to the chute,
Yeah.
and my arm was on fire, and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
fuck,
Yeah.
what went on. And the next couple weeks, it stayed pretty swollen and throbbing, and um, it just there wasn't a whole lot to salvage, and I dealt with that. That became a really really serious injury for me because the way it got reattached, a lot of times they pull it back down through the elbow right on the backside. Well, they could only reattach mine back down to the top side. So it left my arm at a crook. I had a bareback
Mm-hmm.
rider crook in my arm. I still do, like barely. But over time, it's gotten better, thankfully. But man, during my riding career, even though I think it was 9 months total that I had to take off, almost a whole year. Uh, God, I mean, it just hurt, and I had to really figure out my riding again after that, like
Mm-hmm.
to kind of work around it. And
Yep.
so that I ended up getting elbow surgery to clean my elbow out after that because of scar tissue, and then so I fought that for a few years, and then I finally kind of got through that and strong again. And one of those things that I really contribute to that is definitely hot yoga. Started getting into yoga and Tai Chi, slow movement through breathing. I'm really, I've mentioned this in a lot of interviews, but I still go back to it today, even after, since being on the mend for my neck. And anytime I'm really tight or just stove up and stressed out or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I like to get out. I like to move my body, get outside, and go, like we are talking, walk or go on a hike, and then get to that highest point and go through this Tai Chi routine, which is called Qigong. And Qigong is a body opener, and it's really kind of just stretching, slow movement through breathing. And I don't know if you guys have learned any about Tai Chi or not through
Mm-mm.
your practice, but
I
it's
haven't done a whole lot of
it's a
research on it.
Chinese, yeah, it's a Chinese martial art form, ancient, kind of like meditative martial art, and something you would, I guess, maybe kind of relate to yoga a little bit, but definitely more of like a flow. And um, I mean, at one point, I think it's considered self defense through the movements and things you're learning, but it's more of a meditative, just stretch, like breathing exercise, really. And there's a lot of forms of it you can learn in depth that you can go into it, but once I started learning that started being able to really synchronize my mind with my breathing and tune me into my body and enable me to sort of like reach this supernatural level of focus. And because I practiced it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
I started really opening my mind to believe in this. And there's not any weird juju with it or anything. Me personally, I believe in God. I consider myself a Christian, and I know a lot of people put a lot of taboo around yoga or something like Tai Chi or whatever. But for me, that's always enabled me to kind of tap into my own spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're combining that with your physicality and able to synchronize those two, like honestly on command, and create that space for yourself in that environment, I then started being able to apply that to the practice pen, you know, from my training just in my day to day to
Mm-hmm.
now let's take that to the buck and barrel. Now let's take that to the practice pen. And now let's take that to the competition, and then I found my algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
and I was starting to really, really tee in there towards my later 20s being on the PBR tour. I'd finally worked through those injuries, was learning these therapy methods, kind of outsourcing, reaching outside the box. Me and guys like Douglas Duncan, Matt Triplett, uh, even Jory Marcus, we were always, kind of like trying to stretch the outer limits of our training practices, learning new techniques, thinking outside the box a little bit. And kind of Conor McGregor style, I
Mm-hmm.
think he was a huge inspiration to us, probably. But it, it, that to me is what it's all about. And there's a lot that I see you guys doing that's really cool to see the rodeo world pushing the training level, really trying to help rodeo athletes become better athletes, how to take care of their body.
Heck yeah, dude. We appreciate that, man. That's definitely been our day one goal. And everything you just said about
Yeah,
the practice from, you're talking about the meditation and Tai Chi, and then being able to apply that with working out to the buck and barrel, to the practice pin, to the competition. That's what we preach over and over and over about fitness and mindset. Anything that you do, you have to practice a lot, and then you have to slowly start introducing it to your routine, right? And I think people
that's
get
so
overwhelmed
true.
with thinking they have to do it all at once, right? Like, oh, I gotta go do this all at one time,
Right.
and it's like, no, if you just master one thing at a time, it'll be perfect. And so I've got a
That's
couple
so
guys
cool that you
even,
just said that.
yeah, keep going, dude.
Mastering
You're
the
good.
one thing at a time.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, no.
That's it.
I just there's also a Shaolin monk master that I'll watch on YouTube who you basically just reiterated something I saw the other day where he talks about part of the art of being a Shaolin master is they'll work on, you know, certain physical parts of their body and their meditative practice and mind for 30 to 60 or 90 days at a time, and that's the only, like, that routine is the only thing they do, and they try to tee in on it day after day after day after
Mm-hmm.
day until they've strengthened that part, you know, and really targeted that muscle group that they're working on, and that whatever spiritual progression they're trying to get to as well
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, because they're always combined.
Heck yeah, dude. Yeah, that's it, man. And so, as your career progressed in the PBR, you know, you got through this bicep injury. You're back to riding well. How did the neck injury happen?
Yeah, so I was doing well. I felt like I'd, you know, finally really teed in on my craft. I knew my equipment, knew my training, my therapy, was in the zone. When I showed up, I knew I was there to win, you know, and I felt like 2016 going into Chicago, that event where I broke my neck, I just had a feeling in my gut like something big was going to happen, and you know, for me, I thought I'm going to win this event. This will be my first tour event win, and I'm going to win the world championship this year. I just had it on my mind. And going in there, me and Douglas Duncan won first and second the first round. Teed off on a good one of Mitch Terrell's. Forget the bull's name. And then the next round, I had a bull called Cowboy up, which was a bull I'd been wanting to get on all the year before. I had seen Cooper Davis ride him for 88 or 90. I think every time they rode him, they were close to 90 on him. And so I was the first guy out that day, and I'm fired up, you know, and national anthem just got done, and I'm back there taping up. And I knew that bull was just going to fit me like a glove, man. And sure enough, he did. We went out there, and it was like a dance, and we were just, he tapped off jump for jump, and you know, the buzzer blew. At that point, I was getting my rope sticky as fuck, and I every pull I got on, man, like it was a little bit hairy getting my hand out, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, because with the elbow surgery, the bicep surgery, I actually taped my arm exactly like a bareback rider every single time, and I mean, I got
Oh
that
no,
rope
yeah.
so sticky, and and that day, you know, it kind of hung a little bit when the whistle blew, and I didn't dismount exactly on time the way I wanted to. So it flipped me way up. You know, I kind of did a gainer and came back down for your audience that didn't hasn't ever seen this. And
Mm-hmm.
you can check it out. It's out there on YouTube or on my social. But you know, as soon as I came down, I mean, I've dismounted that way 1,000 times and rotated and gotten over, you know, and gotten on my hands and feet
Mm-hmm.
or on my hands and knees in a cat-like position. But that day, I just came straight down like a yard dart, and I kind of lost momentum rotating in the air and just all feet overhead directly, boom, and then my body laid flat, and it just the right amount of pressure, like all my weight directly over the top of my head, and it
Mm-hmm.
snapped my C2 vertebrae, which is this middle one right in the middle of your neck. And
Mm-hmm.
you guys see this a lot with bareback riding, neck injuries and things. Um, but you know, that day it broke it clean through and crushed one whole side into pieces over here on the right. And that's what they told me was the real miracle is the fact that it didn't kill me or sever my nervous system right there, because
Mm-hmm.
you got a major artery right there, and all of your main nervous central station is running through right there. That's the main pivot point of your neck, and so that C2 is like maybe the most dangerous vertebrae to break. C1 and C2 usually, and and it did. It paralyzed me at that point, or sent me into what they call stingers. but I couldn't feel anything below my neck. I remember trying to lift my head up as soon as I hit the ground and just feeling the most excruciating pain and instant heat and swelling. And then I felt like my chest started to cave in, and like I just remember seeing colors and thinking my life was going to end like right then and there, and I just started praying immediately. And as they say, like your life flashes before your eyes. I literally had like this crazy replay reel of my entire life and people that were in my life that I love right then and there, and it was a supernatural experience that day. I have no other, I can't attribute it to any other thing than God. Thank God for saving me that day, let me stick around a little bit longer.
Yeah.
He obviously wasn't done with me, and just so everlasting, so ever grateful for that, and that's all I can say is, the power of God's love is real, because I certainly wasn't living my life right. I didn't deserve to be, given that second chance at that point in my life. And I was living my life all about me, honestly. Being the life of a rodeo star is not, it's not easy to hold that level line, and especially when you're doing good or getting the attention. And we're kind of at the PBR level, really, especially now, the corporate mentality that has bled through the industry has really, I think, corrupted and poisoned the minds of a lot of the athletes, because it's turned into such a selfish, meistic, divided
It's like a rock star
perspective
kind of deal.
on, yes, 100%,
Yeah.
and feeding into that rock star life. Whereas we're already facing like the biggest battle gladiator fight any man could challenge himself with in an arena, besides fighting an actual grizzly bear or a lion,
Yeah.
and you your life's on the line, and there's a man needs to have his spiritual ducks in the row going in there, and there's so much of this prestige and all this stuff they try to shove down the guys' throats, even the day of, these events, having them, exploiting them out there among the fans, doing stuff. I mean, I'm all about the fans and making sure that we as a sport give back to the fans and show our appreciation and get involved with the fans. I think that's what it's all about. But you don't see any other professional sport where the day the competition happens, these guys have to go do 50 press runs and be up at 5 a.m. for a radio station. You know what I mean? You don't see NFL players on game day having to go do that.
No,
So,
you don't.
uh, let's think about what bull riding means, and like what that means to a guy's mental state, and the strain and the pressure you're putting on them and what you're asking out of them. And, you know, let's maybe think about paying them that same $1 million uh, contract that the NFL guy has, if you want to make it like NFL.
Absolutely, man. Well, I think that kind of
Just a
leads us
thought.
right into, yeah, no, you're spot on, man. But that kind of leads us right into everything you're doing now and what you've done beyond the arena, and kind of talking about like God said you ain't done yet. And I think that's exactly right. And you're here for a reason. And I think that everything you just talked about is exactly why the Ultimate Bull Rider came to be. So I definitely
Absolutely.
want to hear about, telling us about that project for you, what inspired you to create it. It's a super unique concept, and all of us, when we heard about it, we're like, that is so cool. So just will you fill our listeners in on what that is and what you're doing there?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So, since being a bull rider and breaking my neck, life sent me through multiple crazy opportunities. And with that, I took that money and decided to build a platform, which I thought at the time I was going to partner with PBR and they would have my back, because I was kind of signed with their company for all the modeling and whatnot. And so I put all my own personal money up front into this platform that a brand builder and I had the idea to come up with, called Rank Ride, which is what you see on my cap here today. And Rank Ride is really, stands for kind of just the real nature of the sport, the raw, the raw term rank. Everybody in cowboy culture knows that term, but for the viewers or audience you have that don't, it's kind of like, gnarly or raw. It's just rank ride, baby. This is the ride. And
Yeah.
and we obviously, my background's bull riding, but my whole life it's been rodeo. My brother was a saddle bronc rider. I've had friends in all the various disciplines of rodeo, of roping, riding, barrel racing, you name it. And we wanted to bring a new digital platform to the culture that not only was there for the fans to win off of, like fantasy football, but something that could actually help generate money for the contestants and give back to the contestants. And that's exactly what we're doing. And with it this year, we're giving 10% of it back, 5% to Cowboys Helping Cowboys, and 5% to Western Sports Foundation. So all you athletes out there who may be in a bind one day, we need you to help promote this so that we can raise some money for you guys. And also the fans too. We want to start this program called the Cowboy Heart Program, which will help give back to a fan in need too. And this is how we want this to go. We're here for the community. We're not here for corporate. We're done with corporate. We've seen corporate's intentions for America, and it's time for our cowboy culture to wake up and realize we have always been here without all that, and we always will be. And we're here for each other. We need to be, at least. And if we're not, we need to check ourselves, and because at the end of the day, you and your neighbor are all you got. And when the shit hits the fan, that's what they say. That's all you got. And so I think it's just time for us to wake up and realize that. And our brand, we want to be a brand that's here for the community like that. We are going to open some opportunities up for the community to get behind it a little more for certain projects like this Ultimate Bull Rider. And Ultimate Bull Rider is just an event that it's an event format that we came up with because we really, I saw how things went with PBR. Instantly, they tried to cut my throat and start competing with me and drown me out as soon as they saw the type of product that I was creating. In fact, I honestly, personally believe as soon as I laid out my plan for how it would give back to the fans and the bull riders, that was the main reason they decided to turn and do their own thing to compete with me and try to squash me, is because it wasn't for them directly. There wasn't enough gain for them out of it where they could soak up 100% of it. And so, that to me shows me really why it wasn't a good plan for them. Or else why wouldn't they? What a better story. They made me their ambassador and their whole spokesman for years. And then, as soon as I don't want to be a model anymore, in Sean Gleason's words, you need to leave this, you just need to stick to modeling and leave this to the big boys. So, that's where it's at. And so we decided, you know what, there needs to be a better brand for bull riding, and help continue to, I guess, usher in the next generation and era of bull riding to remind the culture, remind the sport, really take it back to the roots of where it's always been, back to the true cowboy heart of things, and re-implementing those values and those standards, of what it means to be not only a cowboy, but a man. Though a lot of these kids don't have any real direction growing up. A lot of them come from troubled homes, no father figure. We want to try to help, not only create better athletes, but, better young men for life. You know, a lot of us have been through this rodeo trail, and now like you guys on the other side of it, coaching, helping. There's a lot more than just training and riding techniques and physical training techniques that these guys need to learn. There's a lot of like life coaching and just um, practical life wisdom that I think could be imparted from a lot of these retired athletes that needs to more and more. There needs to be more coaching. There needs to be more Big Brother programs, and that's what Ultimate Bull Rider is. It's just a Big Brother program, basically. And we created a head-to-head format. Yeah, and the cool thing is we started out with a head-to-head format where these kids match each other and kind of challenge each other one-on-one in the bull riding event. But we see this working for bareback riding. We see this working for any of the rough stock events or the timed event in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's easy. I think it'd be an easy transition for all the events, man. I think it's super cool what you guys are doing. Did you, so in this head-to-head format, what happens, like, how long is this competition? Is this they show up for one day and they're going head-to-head until, winner takes all? Or is it like weeks long where guys are training and doing things and these older guys that are giving back to them are helping them, instilling the wisdom, helping them get better in the arena, outside of the arena, and then they're competing against each other weekly? Like, how does that work?
So the first event we did was just a 1-day event, and we didn't have full production team or budget at that point to produce a full week-long training camp and that sort of thing. So what we did was we invited the top 3 kids from Oklahoma that we could find and the top 3 kids from Texas. We actually let them kind of pick their own challenger, and it just so turned out that 3 of them were from Oklahoma and 3 of them were from Texas. So they were already ganged up. Click, gang. Oklahoma, Texas gang. And John Creamer, Wasey Shallow were our headline, title fight.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, I think everybody had been talking about them too leading up to that. Like, all I kept hearing about was Wasey Shallow or John Creamer. And what's really cool is I went to Jim Watkins' house when I was about 10 years old with my dad because my brother was learning to ride saddle broncs, and I met Wasey Shallow's dad there. He was going to school at OC at that time, and Luke Shallow is a hell of a hand for those that didn't know him or know who he is. But you're going to see his son Wasey Shallow here pretty soon in the pro headlines right there along John Creamer with John Creamer and his dad Paulo. I mean, just great rodeo heritage, and that's what I loved about it was both of those kids were second generation. Both come from really great parents, and just a shout out to Wasey too for just winning the national. He won the national high school finals all around and bull riding, right?
Yeah,
that's right. That's my boy right there. Hell yeah!
Heck yeah, dude!
Congrats, Wasey.
That's super cool.
But
dude,
yeah,
the high school bull riding, as a side note, was super ranked this year. Like really ranked.
Oh, it's so exciting to see these young kids. I mean, they're stepping it up for sure. For sure.
Super cool. Sorry, getting back to Ultimate Bull Rider. So this was a one-off event. They compete against each other. It was a huge success, man. And watching everything on social media and stuff, it just looks so awesome and like a great event. And
Absolutely.
So you're talking about possibly transitioning in this into a
full
series
course
of some kind, correct?
Yeah, we want to do a full series this time. We kind of filmed the pilot episode there and self-produced it. And we have a great team of creators around us and great people that helped with us. Thanks to Paulo Creamer and Chad Jury that helped us with the Bucking Bulls. Brendan Eldred, Justin Cox, thank you guys. A lot of those guys put their efforts in just to kind of help us get this going, and we really appreciate them. But yeah, we want to do a full training camp next time and get these kids. We're going to hand select everybody we want to come. The first time paid $10,000 for the top match between John and Wasey. So we're hoping to put more money up, but this may be more of an elimination style format the next time, and kind of bring it down in bracket format. But yeah, I think we're going to hand select all the guys we want to come this next time and put them through a little boot camp. Rank ride
That's
boot
exciting,
camp.
man. Really, really cool. Heck yeah.
And we're looking to partner up with Optimum Performance and you guys. Hopefully we can get a little collaboration going here.
Man, we're like I've said before, we're all in. I think this is so cool, and just teams right up with what we're trying to do and what we've always been trying to do. And kind of speaking of that, I wanted to wrap this up with I always ask guests on the show what their legacy is. What legacy do you hope to build with this Ultimate Bull Rider and leave for the rodeo community and beyond?
Man, great question. My legacy that I want to leave is number one, just I think my goal for my life and my purpose in being a cowboy or doing any of this stuff I'm doing now is, it's what I was born into. It's naturally a part of me. It's what I love. I believe in this way of life. That's why I'm not in Hollywood. That's why I gave all that up. I could have kept going in that world. I could have kept living that lifestyle. I could have definitely saved all my money and done something different with it, but I've decided to pour it all into this industry and this culture because I believe in creating a self-sustainable ecosystem that does give the power back to the people and back to the culture and back to the industry. I want this industry to have control again of what it produces, and remember that we don't have to depend on and lean on an outside corporate entity to make this happen. There are other ways. And I think all I want to make sure I leave behind is that people really knew by the time I die, like truly who I am and what I stand for. And that's old school traditional cowboy values. And, treating others like you want to be treated. Number one, love is the greatest power of all, being kind to your neighbor, helping somebody when they're down, and looking out for those who can't look out for themselves, always trying to do the right thing, even when you do mess up, and getting back up and dusting yourself off and try again. Every day's a new day. And I just want to be remembered as someone who showed that. And, a winner is just someone who never quits at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Damn right, dude. It's a hell of a legacy, and I know that you're well on your way to getting that done, buddy. We thank you so much for coming on today and sharing everything.
Yeah, man, and it's because of great men like you guys in my life that I'm still here. All the mentors that I mentioned on this podcast, just want to say a shout out to those guys. DJ Domain, Matt Austin, love you guys. Those are my heroes. Those are the men that taught me these values, along with my father, Toya Bolton, who's my greatest hero. And I think it's all about passing that on. So that's what we're here to do.
Absolutely, buddy. How can people find out more about Ultimate Bull Rider?
You bet, rankride.com. Rankride.com. Follow along at Rankride Ranch on Instagram. All of our socials are Rankride Ranch. And we'll have some pretty cool things happening on our own podcast soon. Hope to have you guys on there.
Heck yeah, dude. We'll be there. Man, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you.